What's up, you guys? This is Ian with the Wiseguys coming at you with a deck profile today. And we did a little bit of a poll wanting to know, you guys in the community, what you were interested in getting updated deck lists for in the wake of the release of Soul Fusion, since we just had the sneak peek this weekend. And one of the overwhelming winners of that poll was Fluffals. I know that it's a big fan favorite, and luckily for you guys, I happen to be married to Samantha, the creator of the Fluffal Duelists Fright Furs Revenge Facebook group. It's a great place that you can go to find tips, deck lists, and theory discussions on this particular archetype for competitive play. If you guys are interested in checking that out after the deck profile, please be sure to do so. Shout out to them before we begin. Thank you, my darling wife, for letting me use your deck for this profile video. Anyway, to get right into the deck profile, the Fluffal archetype has, of course, its own Stratos. That's your best friend. Fluffal player's best friend, like man, is the dog. It lets you search out any Fluffal monster as well as Edge Imp Sabers when you summon it. This little guy is also a level 4 Earth monster, which makes him ideal candidate for a little bit of a spicy tech that we run in the deck that I will explain to you guys a little bit later. Next up, we've got some two ofs. We've got Fluffal Bear. This guy is the Kickstarter for the Toy Vendor engine. He's one of the most important cards in the deck. You use him by discarding it from the hand in order to set a Toy Vendor from the deck to the field, which is, of course, really important because you want to be using your Fluffal monsters to generate as much advantage as possible, especially with the use of Toy Vendor for various reasons. If you're not familiar with playing Fluffals, I'm going to explain the game plan real quick before we continue. Every Fluffal monster, well, maybe not every Fluffal monster, but most of them have an effect that goes off when they use as fusion materials or while they're in the graveyard. So the game plan with Fluffals is that you use them for fusion summons, and then you take advantage of the generation of advantage that they give you when they're in the graveyard in order to continue your plays in fusion summoning. So one of the cards that combos best with Bear is going to be Fluffal Wings. We run this guy at 2 because we want to use him as a 2-card combo with Fluffal Bear. You see, when you control a Toy Vendor, you can discard this card using Toy Vendor for its effect. And then when it's in the graveyard and you control Toy Vendor, you can banish Fluffal Wings and another Fluffal monster like Bear and draw a card. After that, you can also send the Toy Vendor to the grave to draw another card. And then Toy Vendor's effect goes off in the grave, allowing you to search for another card to add to your hand. So this 2-card combo is essentially a pot of greed because you go +1 in the end. So obviously really good. Again, it's all about generating advantage in Fluffals. People just don't understand the sick amount of advantage this deck can build. Speaking of advantage generation, Fluffal Penguin. This cute little guy, when he's sent as a fusion material, allows you to draw 2 cards and discard 1. It's a little bit of a lower level graceful charity, but nevertheless, again, always be drawing cards in Fluffal. APD, always be drawing, you guys. One of the things that allows us to do as many fusion summons as we can is Fluffal Owl. It allows us to search the deck for a polymerization when it's normal or special summon, so really useful because there are some good conditions for special summoning in this deck using the Toy Vendor, so you can get off that ability. This is a hard once per turn ability, and you can only use one of its abilities in a turn, so you only run it at 1 because it can be a little bit bricky. You can pay 500 life points while this card's on the field to fusion summon a Fight for monster from the deck, which can be useful if you don't need the polymerizations, but you do want to get off the special summon, or maybe they hit you with like a Mind Crush or something stupid, and get rid of your polymerizations. You can use this card to kind of work around that. Next up, the other one we run is Fluffal Cat. This is another one of those advantage cards that you run as a little bit of a tech, because if it's used as a fusion material and it's in the graveyard, you can add 1 polymerization in your graveyard to your hand, which again allows you to keep summoning. Always be summoning, ABS. So the Edge Imps that you have here, we run 3 of the Edge Imp chain. Now, while he has an ability that goes off when you summon him, that's not why we run this guy. The reason we run this guy is because when it's sent from the hand or the field to the graveyard, it allows you to search for a Fright Fur card and add it from the deck to your hand. This allows you to search for stuff like Fright Fur Reborn, Fright Fur Fusion, Fright Fur Factory, and then, of course, the much promised special tech that we got in Soul Fusion, Fright Fur Patchwork, which we'll talk about more later. The other Fright Fur or Edge Imp we run is Edge Imp Sabers. Very searchable in the deck. So we only run one of it. The other cool thing about this card is that you can place one card from your hand to the top of the deck and special summon it from the grave. So if you use it for one fusion, you just put another card on the top of the deck, bring him back, and bam, fusion summon material again right there. Next up, we've got some tech cards that we're using in this deck. I like Gamma a lot in this deck because you don't want to get hit with Ash. You want to keep going. You want to keep generating advantage. You definitely don't want to get hit by Droll and Lockbird, and you don't even want your toy vendor really to get hit by Ghost Ogre. So we run the Gamma package in here. It allows you to stop hand traps on your turn, go into Omega, rip a card from their hand, and basically force them to go -2 for trying to interrupt your play. And then also, if you're going up against something like Goki and this is in your hand, this is great to use against something like Summon Sorceress in order to interrupt their plays and stop them from going off too hard, mess up their boards. A bad Goki player won't know how to even respond to getting their Summon Sorceress hit with Omega and not getting that extra summon that they need. Some of them might know how to play through it if they get the summon off with Ghost and lose the Sorceress to Ghost Ogre. But if they get hit by Gamma and they don't even get the effect, they're like, pass, I guess. Next up, the best card from Soul Fusion, Dino Wrestler Pankratops. This card is ridiculous going second. I mean, look at this guy. He's green. He wears purple pants. He is the Incredible Hulk if Hulk was a Triceratops, you guys. He's got 2600 attack. He summons himself like a Cyber Dragon, and then he tributes himself as a cost to pop any card on the field. Monster, spell, trap. So he can bait negates. He can out problematic monsters. He can out problematic spells, and he can out floodgates. He can even out skill drain, you guys, because he tributes himself as cost. Skill drain allows you to activate it, so he pops it, boom, he's no longer on the field. Skill drain can't negate it, so you laugh at Draco for trying to play skill drain against you or any other deck teching it. Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, Altergeist, whoever tries to tech skill drain or Monarchs Erupt against you, you're just like, okay, Pankratops, thanks for playing. And then, of course, the last guy here, Glow Up Bulb. This is a big shout out to Team Wiseguys member Trey Faircloth. This is a tech that he ran in the old school Toy Store build. You can find those decks, those deck profiles floating around the internet. But yeah, so Glow Up Bulb in this deck makes Naturally Beast with Fluffal Dog, and you get to basically laugh in Fluffals at Sky Striker because they have almost no out to Nat Beast once it's on the field. Great card. We definitely run this because in the main deck, it's just absolutely nutty to be able to summon Nat Beast in Fluffals. Nobody sees it coming. Next up, thousands of years ago, Konami released a card in the OCG that we've been trying to get in the TCG. Every Fluffal player knows what this card is, Fright for Patchwork. Sadly, it's only a rare. They didn't give it to us in Super or higher. I'm sure every Fluffal player out there is like, why wasn't it a secret rare, Konami? This was the missing piece of the puzzle to Fluffal domination, guys. Allows you to add an Edge Imp and a Polymerization to your hand. It's a free +1. And you definitely need this to go off. Again, if this card wasn't the missing piece to Tier 0 dominance of Fluffals, I have no idea what could possibly be the problem, you guys. Now that we have this, I expect everybody to start getting invites with Fluffals. So we'll be seeing you guys' deck profiles, right? Next up, you're in 3 of the Toy Vendor. This is your main draw power engine. You use him to discard a card from your hand, draw a card, reveal it, and if it's a Fluffal, you get to special summon one of the monsters in your hand to the field. That's how you flood the field with Fluffals for your bigger Fright Fur plays. And then, of course, when this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add an Edge Imp Sabers or a Fluffal monster to your hand. So again, remember the +1 combo with Bear, Wings, and the Toy Vendor that you get from the deck using Bear's effect. Great 2-card combo right there. Next up, this is a fusion deck, so you run 3 polymerizations. I shouldn't even really have to explain that. Then, of course, you run 1 Fright Fur Fusion. It's the archetypal fusion card, and it allows you to special summon by banishing from the hand and graveyard in order to do the fusion summon. Next, you run Fright Fur Reborn. It's a searchable monster reborn for Fright Fur monsters. You can search it off of the Edge Imp chain like we talked about before. The neat thing about this is after you've used it, you can actually banish it from the graveyard in order to return a banished Fluffal or Fright Fur monster back to the graveyard. So you can use this to bring back a banished Fright Fur monster or Fluffal Wings, for example. And if you've got another Toy Vendor, you can go off again and get another 3 cards to the hand. So be clever with this card. It's really a lot better than a lot of people think. I think the really casual Fluffal players online have said that this card's bad, but clearly they're not thinking in 3 dimensions. Really good card. And then of course you run Monster Reborn, because again, you want to be bringing back out your Fight for monsters if you're using them for fusion summons, or if you're going off into link summons and stuff like that. Next up, another good 2 if we run Foolish Burial Goods. You run it at 2 because it's a hard once per turn. You use this to bury your toy vendors in order to search out a combo piece that you need in order to go off. If you've got too many toy vendors, or if you got this in your hand and another toy vendor, you can just or a polymerization, something you need, get the Edge Imp Chain or Edge Imp Saber, or the Fluffal Monster, Fluffal Bear, something to just like go off. Get the Fluffal Wings if you need it to just make your plays. Just be smart with this card because it's hard once per turn. You only run it at 2. For that reason. Next up, Call by the Grave. We got that at 2 because Konami only lets us have 2. It's amazing. You don't want to get hit by hand traps, so you run this card. It's also really good when if you go through your whole turn and this is still in your hand, before your end phase, just set this and make use of it on your opponent's turn. Lastly, we've got 2 cards that help us get to the Glow Up Bulb. Foolish Burial and 1 for 1. If you're using Foolish Burial for anything other than Glow Up Bulb, you're probably using it wrong. I mean, unless you've already used the Glow Up Bulb, then I would say you can use Foolish Burial for something like Fluffal Wings if you want to put it in the grave with a toy vendor, and again do that combo to draw 3 is really strong. That's it for the main deck. Next, going into the extra deck, you have a few Fright Fur monsters. First one's Fright Fur Sheep. This is your ideal going first Fright Fur. You summon him in defense mode. He's just got 2000. So he can be killed, but the thing is, you want that to happen because he floats when he dies, if he's destroyed by battle or card effect, essentially. And then he gets another 800 attack, so he comes back as a 2800. Really nice for OTKs. Next up, you've got Fright Fur Wolf. This guy has an extra attack for every fusion material that... for every fusion material he had. So he starts off with 2 attacks, and you can use more than 1 Fluffal monster to make him. So if you've got 2-3 Fluffals, he's got anywhere between 2 and 4 attacks. Again, because you're using the toy vendors to special summon additional Fluffals and stuff, gives you the ability to make him have more attacks. He's only 2k beater by himself, but you have a lot of Fluffal or Fright Fur monsters in the extra deck that will make him more powerful. So a good OTK enabler. If you have the opportunity to go into it, you should. Next up, the other one is Fright Fur Daredevil. This guy's really more for going into time. He's a utility beater. Now, he does have 3000 attack, which makes him pretty strong, but what you need him for is the fact that when he destroys a monster by battle, it inflicts 1000 points of damage to your opponent. So again, you're getting close to time, get a battle phase, attack him, boom. But if your opponent isn't smart and he gets rid of this guy, he also does residual burn of 500 for like every Fright Fur and Fluffal monster in the grave, so it could be really useful. Next up, 2 of the Tiger. Fright Fur Tiger is a really great monster. When he is special summoned, he can target and destroy cards on the field up to the number of materials that was used for him. So again, like Wolf, he can be summoned using more than 1 Fluffal monster. Also, while he's on the field, he gives Fluffal and Fright Fur monsters an additional 300 attack on the field. So for each one you control, they get bigger and bigger. Really great OTK enabler. Next up, Fright Fur Kraken, one of the better options to create in the fusion summon the first turn. He has an ability that allows him to send, not destroy, but send a monster on the field to the grave. The only restriction is that once you use his ability, he can't attack directly. But if you do that ability and then you ditch him with a polymerization to make another Fright Fur monster or another Link monster, then you bring him back. He still has the ability to attack twice and attack directly. Also, he goes into defense mode, which is nice because he's got a big 3k body for the opponent to have to deal with. Then, of course, there's Fright Fur Sabretooth. This is the boss monster of the deck. You want to make as many of him as you can in a turn because he gives 400 attack while he's on the field to your monsters. And then, of course, if he's made with 3 or more materials, he's indestructible by battle or card effect. So really good for being able to handle meta that includes cards like Afterburner. You have to make him with a Frightfur monster, but the really good thing about him is when he's special summoned, you can actually target one of the Frightfur monsters in your graveyard and special summon it to the field. So like I was saying before with Kraken, you special summon Kraken, use its ability to send a monster to the grave, then use your next fusion summon, bring out Sabretooth, and then you can bring back Kraken, so you have the 3 attacks, and each one you get the additional 400 attacks. So these are really powerful options available to you for doing the OTK plays. Then, of course, you run Nat Beast and Omega as your synchros. We talked about this before already. Nat Beast is made with Glow Up Bulb and Fluffal Dog. This card is ridiculously overpowered against Sky Strikers. There's practically nothing they can do against you when you strangle out their resource generation by just discarding 2. And again, you're milling cards from the deck, and this is a deck where the monsters in the grave have effects. Like if you mill Fluffal Wings and another Fluffal monster and you control Toy Vendor, you're literally sitting there like, oh, hey, I just added 3 cards to my hand off of this effect. So that's just nutty right there. Then, of course, Omega is Omega. You make Gamma on your turn, make him, rip a card, opponent goes -2. You get to left to the bank. Next up for the links, we've got 1 Lamphorhynchus. I'm thinking of moving him up to 2 and maybe going down 1 Tiger, because you can only control 1 Tiger at a time anyway because he's ridiculous. But just generic link 2 with 2 down markers. You can't say no to that. It's too easy to make and too useful for a deck that requires a little bit of extra love for the extra deck monsters. Next, of course, you can also run Decode Talker, really good because he can out-targeting stuff like Widow Anchor. And, of course, he gains more attack for the number of cards that he points to. So really useful if you're trying to, like, link up one from link up one and get some extra damage on the board. Then, of course, Borlo Dragon is the last guy. He's still one of the most powerful boss monsters in the game. If you're really far ahead and you make him, you just put the clamps on and there's nothing your opponent can do to come back. So, great card. You can use Boral Sword as well for more TK potential. But I like Borlo Dragon because, he's still just so useful for being able to steal opponents' monsters. Next up is the side deck. Of course, side decking, you know your local better than I do, and you know your regionals better than I do. So make sure you prepare ahead of time for what you expect to see a lot of in the meta. So right now, this is based off of what I'm thinking we're going to be seeing a lot of. Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. Ooh. Ash Blossom and Joy Spring is still arguably the best hand trap in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! There's not a single deck in the meta that it doesn't touch. And, it's irreplaceable when you take it out. What are you going to take out for it? Maybe Kaijus, if Sky Striker is still the most dominant deck in this meta, because Kaijus mess up Sky Striker's game plan really hard. Next up, Twin Twisters. Again, this is about blown up back row and a back row heavy meta. Sky Strikers, Draco, Altergeist, Paleo Frogs. Everybody's trying to run more and more back row, so you need less hand traps and more destruction for them. This card also great because discard synergy is useful in this deck. You're going to have to put this in when you have the Sky Striker matchup, because when they start generating advantage off multi-roll and resetting 3 to 5 cards, you want to pop 2 of those and banish them, and that'll just strangle the resource generation. They can't outgrind you if they can't keep reusing multi-roll every turn to bring back more and more spells. So you just want to pop that and pop another banish and just get rid of stuff like Widow Anchor. It's just ridiculous. Next up, Red Reboot. It's useful against Draco, Altergeist. It's a blowout. Not that you should ever be losing to Altergeist. They're literally a terrible deck, but Red Reboot's really good, especially against Evenly. You don't want to get hit by Evenly in this deck. You don't want to be put down to 1 monster. That's really a bad position to be in, but Red Reboot can save you from that situation, of course. Then this card's mostly in response to the Rise of Thunder Dragon, but Dimensional Barrier, of course. This card was good against Pendulums, good against Mech Knight Invoked, but the reason we're running it is because we really, really, really don't want to see Thunder Dragon Colossus on the board. So Dimensional Barrier will stop their plays essentially in their tracks, and there'll be nothing they can do with it. Last but not least, Evenly Matched, in my opinion. This is still one of the best cards in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Much like Ash Blossom, there's really nothing that replaces it. is a blowout against Sky Striker, Altergeist Draco. If you hit them with it, there's literally no coming back. I don't know if Spiral ever becomes a thing again. This blows them out as well. They just and of course, because fewer and fewer people are thinking about it, they're not going to be prepared for it mentally when you hit them with it. There are going to be a lot of people running Iron Wall. There are going to be a lot of people running Red Reboot and Wiretap. So, like, if you sense that your opponent's going to be playing that, then don't run it. But if you know you're going to be going second in like game 3 or something, and you want to really catch them off guard because they know that you don't banish stuff with the effects that you have, then Evenly can catch them completely off guard and blow up their board no matter what they try to do with it. Just summon Pank or Tops, try to bait the negate, and then go into Evenly matched and say, goodbye, Goki board. Anyway, that's the deck profile, you guys. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys for sticking with me watching this profile. Thank you guys for selecting Fluffals. It was a really fun deck to learn about and do the deck profile on. Obviously, it was great to take advantage of the fact that my wife is really into that archetype for the video. So shout outs again to my darling wife. Thank you for loaning me your deck to do this profile with. Shout out to the Fluffal Duelist Fight for Revenge group on Facebook. Please check them out if you're looking to learn more about this archetype. Shout out to Greg Farley and Trey Faircloth, members of the Wiseguys. You guys were instrumental in getting this video done, getting the deck profile up to snuff, and making sure that the list was as tight as it could be. So thank you guys very much for all of that. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Wiseguys TCG for more great Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. We'll be putting up more deck profiles and lists, pack cracking, and all sorts of good stuff here in the future. And of course, you're going to be able to catch Alan Nails, the real Seto Kaiba, here on the YouTube channel as well. So be sure to tune in for that as well. We've got a lot of cool content coming out from him in the very near future, you guys. Thank you very much. And of course, be sure to hit that bell so you get your updates as soon as we put out the latest content on the page. Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you next time. Peace.